Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to talk about the Fifth Doctor, Peter Davison. And my question is, what do you think is the most underrated Fifth Doctor story? Not necessarily one that is thought of as bad, that you think of as better, but one that you just feel like deserves better than its reputation. Maybe its reputation is decently good and you think it's amazing. There are several we could look at here. I think Terminus is a good candidate. Even I've come to appreciate Terminus more on rewatch. I used to call it possibly the most forgettable episode of Doctor Who ever made, because there really was a point where most of the time I couldn't even remember most of Terminus. I'm like, what happens in Terminus? Have you seen Terminus? Yes, what happens in it? But on rewatch, and I really think the updated effects help it. I will say that as well. I tend to prefer updated effects when there are optional updated effects. Not always, but 99% of the time I prefer the updated effects. I think they really help with this one. And some of the costume designs I like the guys who are wearing the still suits that remind me of, well, the still suits from Dune, the 1984 Dune. We'll call it the good one. Even though I haven't seen the new one, I'm still calling the 84 one the good one. It has some other things like that going on into it. I enjoy the actual story and how it explains the Big Bang. That's really cool. So I'm not saying it's essential Doctor Who, but I think it's better possibly than its reputation. You never really hear anybody talk about Terminus. It truly is a very forgotten story and arguably a forgettable story. But I find it enjoyable when I rewatch it. I think another one on the list is Castrovalva. Now, I don't think people talk bad about Castrovalva, but as someone who truly loves Castrovalva, it's my favorite Davison story. Not necessarily his objective best, but my subjective favorite story by him. I think it is a good candidate. I enjoy it. The location work looks good. I like the story. I think it's a good end of the trilogy that we started in Keeper of Traken and continued on into Logopolis. And it's a nice first story for the Fifth Doctor while also getting us some time to grow with Nyssa and Tegan a little more. The story's a little more complicated than it needs to be. I don't get everything going on with Adric either. And the fact that the Master reveal surprised me the first time, I did not catch that. It always gets points for that. And the updated effects on the Season 19 box set do help spruce it up a little bit, which I like. I'm trying to think of a couple more. There are several. Time Flight, actually. I don't think Time Flight is by any means essential Doctor Who, but I don't think it's the dumpster fire some people think it is, having just rewatched it and reviewed it recently. I thought Time Flight is fine, and it didn't even take multiple viewings for that. This is only the second time I've watched Time Flight, and even the first time I watched it, I thought it was an underrated story. I still feel that way. I think it's an underrated story. But for me, the one, if I had to pick one underrated story, it's probably The King's Demons. I like The King's Demons. I've only watched it the one time so far, but I enjoyed it. One of my subscribers sent it to me several months before the Season 20 box set came out. I like it. I thought it was really good. It's a great two-parter that knows it only needs to be a two-parter. The location work looks nice. The set design looks nice. I like the story. I mean, the Master is very obviously the Master in this one. I mean, I knew going into the story that the Master was in it, but when you first see Anthony Ainley in disguise, it's Anthony Ainley. I was like, that's Anthony Ainley. And the cliffhanger is, of course, it's actually me, Doctor, which we get a lot in that era, but it's fine. I like that part one culminates in an epic fight scene between the Doctor and the Master, a nice sword fight. It's a little choreographed looking, but it's still nice that we see them having a physical battle, and how that kind of mirrors at the end of part two. We see them having a mental battle between controlling Chameleon. I like how they have a physical battle at the end of part one and a mental battle at the end of part two. I like how the Doctor booby traps the Master's TARDIS. I like that. Now, I'm not a big fan of Chameleon, but Chameleon isn't really Chameleon much in this story, like he has Planet of Fire. Most of the time he's disguised as the King, and I really like the actor who plays the imposter King in this. The actor playing him nails it. He's got a really cool voice I like. And I love that little bit when he's singing the song. I don't know why, but I just really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the jousting scene. The fact that Chameleon being Chameleon is kept to kind of a minimum here at the end really works for me. The effects are fine. It's a good two-parter. I don't understand why it gets so much hate. I much prefer it over Black Orchid and The Awakening. The Awakening's terrible. Whereas Black Orchid is just, eh. This is the only Davison two-parter that I truly enjoy and find interesting. I don't just think it's underrated. I think it's a really good 80s Doctor Who episode. I don't quite understand why it gets the flack it does. So while the others I mentioned, I definitely think could be in the running, I definitely think my answer would be The King's Demons is the most underrated 5th Doctor story. I want to know what you think, so comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. A link to my Patreon is down there if you like what I do and would like to subscribe to what I do and support me financially. I want to give a shout out to a couple of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney and Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It is appreciated. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review down there, and links to my Amazon wish list and my Amazon UK wish list are down there as well. I would love to get some more of these standard edition collections range sets to put on the shelf. That would be really awesome. Not essential since I have the limited editions, but I'd love to have them because I love my Doctor Who show. Most importantly, thank you for watching.